Well, today is Juneteenth, and a Metro activist is reminding all of us, while the holiday is noteworthy, it is only one step on the road to equality. LaVon Stennis Williams is the founder and curator of Cultural Humanities Museum, Mama's Attic. She tells us there are misconceptions surrounding the end to slavery, and that is why she recently added an exhibit devoted solely to the Emancipation Proclamation, with artifacts related to life during the period following its signing.
Most of the exhibits that we do have on display reflect life after the Emancipation Proclamation. We have a few pictures and exhibits that talk about slavery during the enslavement of African Americans, but most of the artifacts here, they're post-Emancipation Proclamation.
We will have an even deeper dive into this story coming up tonight on Live at 5. We are following